Alright, today we're going to show you guys how to put the clutch kit in a 2016 XP1000. So this video could also be used on any of the 2016 models, whether it be 900, 1000, high lift, or 4-seater, because the clutches and the kits, it's pretty close to the same. And as you can see, the 2016 secondary is going to be pretty much the same. It's got the new square pucks, which we're not a fan of, and we'll point that out in another video about our rollers. But anyway, I also want to point out that I'm kind of lazy on videos, so there's an older video for an XP900 as far as putting the clutch kit in the primary. It just hadn't really changed enough for me to want to do another whole video and all that. So basically, I just got to this point. I'm on a lift, took the tire off, shock off, 18 millimeter shock. When you take your shock loose, the little bushings or whatever you want to call them may fall out. Watch where they go, and then just move it over to the side, and then you're at this point. One thing I do want to stress, really stress, and it's hard for me, golly, as much clutching and stuff that I've done over the years, this hard part. Dalton told me, he said, make sure you even read these instructions. And so he said, just because you think you know what you're doing, you don't always do. And he's just picking with me, but you know, one of the things I did learn in the instructions is what a B-bill, I believe he's called a B-bill washer is, and that's this washer on this secondary clutch. Now in past videos, I always use my impact to put these clutches back on, and I've always tell you is you should torque them, but I've always used an impact. And he explained to me it's very important that we torque this bolt back 50, I believe it's 55 foot-pounds, and I'll get the instructions and look. So you use them and get this back on. But I just want to point that out up front. You can put the vehicle in gear to keep it from turning, and probably put your hand on it and in gear, and you can get it torqued back to 55 pounds. This one, I'm going to tell you, should be torqued to 96 foot-pounds. I'm still using my impact on that. But anyway, so we're going to get started, and basically we're just going to show you how to take it off, and then we'll move into the what we call a little shop to get into this secondary. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to take out the primary bolt, 21 millimeter. Alright, slide all your washers off. Fine, if I was you, I believe it's 16 miles been taken care of, but make sure you got the new 10 point, whatever it is, grade primary bolt. Okay. And depending on what puller you got, it may not be the same. This is one of the two we use. Slide it up in, get it started with your fingers, hand. I believe that's 19 millimeter. So the bottom's out. Bottom's out on the crankshaft. There's a hole in the crank. This puller goes up into it, and then just. All right, yours may be tough to get off. May come off with a loud pop. I will say this. It's kind of one of those liability deals, but if you have one that's stuck, I would put some pressure on it. I got a dead blow hammer, and I hate to tell you to hit on it a little bit, but find a solid place, usually back here on the very back, and just tap it lightly, and with the pressure on it, it may pop off. Alright, now pull your puller back out, pull your primary out. I also, you do not have to pull the primary off to do the clutch kit and the primary part. I just find it much easier to do with it off. Alright, take the secondary off. You want to pay attention to how this washer is going on there, because this is not a flat washer. Okay. Also, it's recommended, if you use it too many times, it'd just be best to replace this washer. It's like a spring washer. Alright, next thing we're going to do is just go and pull the belt off. Alright. Also, on belts, pay attention to the way you take it off and put it back on that way. But people say belts are directional. They are after the first install. Some manufacturers put an arrow pointing this way and that way and this, that, and the other. But it doesn't matter the first time. It's just after that you need to repeat it. Okay, now we just slide our secondary off. And that's it for the getting off part. Okay, now we got this off. What I want you to do is use that old video we talked about for the primary, and we're going to continue on with this new video. I keep hitting the dang funny bone on this shock deal here. It's killing me. Anyway, change the helix and the spring out, and then we're going to go get set up on that and then return back for the install. Alright, we're at the part about secondary, changing the spring and the helix out. I normally keep this tool in my vise, but I screwed it down to this old makeshift workbench for video's sake. Alright, one thing I'm not doing in the video, because I've already done this before on this one, but is to heat these screws up that hold this helix up one at a time, and then take them out one at a time, because there's some Loctite on them, and so you need to break it. So unscrew one at a time. Let's see, I believe that's a T25. Alright, then put it into, go ahead and put pressure on it, because this is not like the old helixes, so you have to put the tool on now. Press down firm with each screw, get it in place, they don't strip it out. Alright, like I said, heat the necks and then get it out. Then just take the spring pressure off. Now, one thing to note now, I guess you can note now, is this helix has an X on it here, right by, mine's got 2X, but there's an X on it here and an X on the clutch. If you're ever going to reuse this, you got to make sure that those two line back up. This spring in these clutches is not under just a tremendous amount of force. I just don't think I'd want to do it with my hands. Alright, so set that helix aside, take your spider off, and then your spring out. Notice this spring, you can see it's got a tang on it, and there's a piece in the clutch where it goes. Okay. If we were just simply going to reverse it, you take your spring, which is a black, red, or orange, I guess that's red, spring out of your Dalton kit. Of course, this is 1000 kit, your spring color may vary. And then the next thing you're going to do is you got this slippery washer. Now you can put it in either location you want. I just put it into the spider and then reverse it. Okay. Now at this point you would take your brand new helix from Dalton, and you're not going to be able to pick this up on the camera. But right on the edge, and I mean on this edge right here, there's an X. Alright, so this has to line back up with the X on the clutch. Alright, there it is. And take your tool. And go back down with it. So the screw holes line up, and take some blue Loctite, put on the screws, and I'm not doing it on mine because it's coming right back apart for another video, and I would hand start these, okay? Because it's like I said, you can really mess up these screws if you're trying to put them in an angle and mess up your whole clutch. Alright, so I'm going to start these by hand. So now I got it all lined up with the screws, and I'm going down. It's probably best to do this by hand. I always get away with it like this. Alright, then just crisscross. And do the other two screws. Take it out of the deal. It's ready to go back on. Okay, we got our Dalton clutch kit in, both our primary and secondary. It's time to put them back on the vehicle. So the first thing I'm going to start with is secondary. And I suggest putting this thing in gear because it's kind of a little pain in the butt to get it on sometimes. So slide it on and just kind of work it. Alright, it could be a little tedious. I got mine off the jack stand, so to keep mine from turning, I'm kind of having to do this. Make sure your EV washer is in place. And for right now, just screw it in hand tight. Okay. Put your belt back on. Put it around your secondary. That's the way I do mine. Grab your belt tool, hook it in here. Be careful not to hit your roller. Spread your secondary apart, and then just put it down in there as far as you can get it into the secondary. And see, my belt went down in there. I can pull that away and then pick up your primary, hook your belt, what I call it, hook it, put it on the crank, put your bolt back in, and you good idea to put some blue Loctite on both bolts. All right. It's 96 foot-pounds here, but I suggest you torque it. Now rotate this thing forward until the belt goes fully to the top. We're going to attempt to torque it up here. All right, I'm going to show you something I didn't show you. You guys have dealt with us before, you know I'm just not big on torque wrenches except on head bolts and Can-Ams, and you better do them right, and we make holding tools. We don't have a holding tool for these. There's not a good way to hold this secondary. If somebody knows a good way, call me. I don't want to look like a dummy, but hey, that's part of it. So what I did, and I'm not advocating this, but there is a brace in this 16, and I took my puller, set it in that hole, and held it in place right on this webbing and eased down on it, and then it stopped it, and then torqued it. You heard the wrench. I'm not advocating this method, but it worked, and you already got the tool. Alright, so basically at this point we're done with the clutch kit. The clutcher's back installed. Just reinstall your covers, put shock back, so forth, so on, and finish following instructions. We always shoot for shift speed. That's explained in a tech article there on our website, but I'm going to go check this, see if it falls in that 82, 8300 RPM range during shift phase with the setup I've got in it, which is 0.85 grain aluminum rivet and 2 set screws. This XP 1000 2-seater may be different, but once again, follow your instructions and torque this whatever method you want to. This should be 96. I use an impact. I'm not saying you should, but you guys have any questions? Been a long time since I did videos, so these ain't just the greatest in the world. But if you got questions, give me a call here at Hunterworks. Thanks.